Remember the good old days when Valve proudly carried themselves as a renowned game developer first and a digital PC games platform second? It was during the company's golden age that we got games like Half-Life, one of the most critically acclaimed first-person shooters of all time, Counter-Strike, one of the most popular competitive games and esports in the world, the Portal series, one of the most compelling puzzlers ever made, Left 4 Dead, the pinnacle of zombie horde shooters back in the day, and Team Fortress 2, one of the originators of class-based shooters that continues to draw in players. When Valve actually put their heart into a game's development, the results were pretty magical, but in recent years, with how much money Steam has been printing for them, the company has been doing nothing but sitting on their asses, letting their creative endeavors stagnate, and watching the cash roll in. It's like they stopped caring about making games because they're making so much money so easily nowadays. Their last major release was Dota 2, which launched all the way back in 2013, and before that, Portal 2, which launched further back in 2011. Which is why when Valve took the stage during August's The International 2017 tournament to announce a brand new game, tangible excitement could be felt in the air, but as soon as people learned that it would be nothing more than a Dota card game, well, the audience reaction in this video speaks for itself. Aw is right. People had been waiting for years for highly anticipated sequels to game franchises like Half-Life, Portal, Left 4 Dead, you name it. So naturally, fans were dismayed to discover that the best Valve could muster in all that time was a new card game, and the disappointment was especially apparent from the abysmal likes to dislikes ratio on the YouTube upload of the teaser trailer. There was a time when Valve set trends as gaming industry leaders, when the company made games that no other studio could touch, but Artifact seemed like the complete antithesis of that, acting as the company's blatant attempt to capitalize on the popularity and monetization potential of digital card games, especially after the explosive success of Blizzard's Hearthstone. However, fast forward a year and a half later to January 2019, and it's become abundantly clear that Valve's attempt to get a piece of the digital card game pie did not pay off as they had hoped. The following information was first reported by website Kotaku, which published an article on January 16, 2019, detailing the current state of Artifact. The game officially launched on November 28th of last year, meaning that it's been out for almost 2 months as of the publishing of this video. But to Valve's misfortune, judging by recent data, the game has woefully failed to pick up steam, no pun intended. According to the article, based on data displayed on Steam charts, there was a point in which the game's total concurrent players had dipped to as low as 1,500, when compared to the highest peak of concurrent players since launch, over 60,000 players, we're looking at a drop in player base of roughly 97.5%. And at the time, this put the game at rank 145 in terms of top played games on Steam by number of concurrent players, sandwiched between older games like Dark Souls 2 and Assassin's Creed Origins, and even beaten by Valve's own 2011 release Portal 2. Granted, if you look at Artifact's Steam charts page now, you'll find that more often than not the game's player count tends to hover in the low 2000s, with 1,500 having been its lowest valley. But that's still a player base drop of around 96.3% and a Steam charts ranking that sits around the low 120s. Just to give you an idea for how bad that is, there are more people playing Fallout New Vegas on Steam, a game that launched over 8 years ago. So the question then becomes, why did Artifact tank so epically when it had all the makings of attracting a large player base and being financially successful? Well, as I've already briefly talked about in this video, it all began with the less than favorable reception the game garnered when it was first announced. Few welcomed Artifact with open arms, especially given Valve is continuing to neglect their community's request for long overdue sequels. Now, had the game garnered positive feedback once people got their hands on it, it may have had a chance to recover, but once the beta began, players quickly discovered just how much of this game was tied to real money purchases. As one Reddit user highlighted, at launch, the only way to obtain new cards in the game was to either pay $2 for a card pack, pay for individual cards on the market, or play Expert, which requires you to spend tickets that cost $1 each for the chance of obtaining packs, with 4 wins netting you 1 pack and 5 wins netting you 2 packs, though if you lose twice at any point in that endeavor, then you'll be out of luck. Making matters all the more egregious was that these booster packs may contain worthless duplicates of cards that players already get via the game's starter kit, decreasing their value. This is all on top of the fact that Artifact isn't even a free-to-play game. It charges a $20 entry fee right from the get-go. It was a complete regression from main competitors like Hearthstone or many other card games for that matter, which are free-to-play and offer a variety of ways to earn new cards via gameplay. This all eventually culminated in Artifact getting review bombed on Steam. While many agree that the card game itself was pretty fun to play with its intriguing 3-lane system and MOBA-like core mechanics, an overwhelming amount of negative feedback centered around the game's monetization. Valve did eventually address this in a blog post detailing future plans to allow players to draft with friends or to draft in casual mode without having to spend money on cards, and on December 20th, the game was updated with a progression system through which players could earn free packs and tickets by leveling up, but by then the damage was already done. It didn't help matters that players eventually found aspects of the game to be flawed enough to abandon it outright, particularly where RNG in the card game's core mechanics is involved, which makes winning consistently to earn rewards more difficult. Another indicator that Artifact is rapidly losing its player base is how the market value of its cards have nosedived since launch. According to Kotaku's article, when the game was first released, a full set of cards would cost around $294, but now the cost stands at less than $100. While a steady decline in cards value would indicate that a healthy player base is opening up packs and increasing the supply of cards in the market, a steep decline over a short period of time is indication that demand for cards is low due to a rapidly diminishing player base. So yeah, the bottom line is that Artifact is currently showing all the signs of a dying game. Even its social media accounts, like the official Twitter page, have not been updated in nearly a month. Hard to say at this point whether Valve has plans to keep bolstering the game in hopes of making a comeback, or if they have already given up, but right now Artifact is in a very precarious position that's hard to recover from. The rough launch that resulted from an egregious focus on monetization lost the game all of its launch momentum, and the plummeting number of concurrent players is giving the existing player base even less reason to invest money and time on a game that seems to be on death's door. Perhaps this is a sign that it's time for Valve to stop pursuing trends and go back to doing what they used to do best. Perhaps it's time for them to give fans and gamers what they have been clamoring for, a proper sequel to some of the most celebrated video game IPs of all time. Valve is sitting on a goldmine of franchises that, for some baffling reason, they refuse to leverage. It's like they've forgotten how to invest big on big games, resorting to creating cheaper and more monetizable projects like card games, or just letting Steam print money while they do nothing. Give us Half-Life 3, Portal 3, and or Left 4 Dead 3, learn to count to 3, and I guarantee that commercial success will come knocking at the door. Or hell, give us a compelling brand new IP that hardcore gamers would actually be interested in, one that won't add to the oversaturation of popular money-making genres, and break new ground instead. Now, it is worth keeping in mind that in its current state, prospects aren't looking good for Valve as a game developer. For all of you Half-Life 3 hopefuls, recall that by summer of 2017, all key writers of the series had left the company. Mark Laidlaw left in January 2016, Eric Wolpaw left the following year on February 2017, and Chad Falachek left 3 months later on May 2017. As far as Half-Life goes, those guys were the big three, and they have all gone their separate ways. You may also recall that Wolpaw and Falachek were key writers for Portal and Left 4 Dead, so their departure is a huge blow for these other two IPs as well. So even if we do get sequels to some of these franchises by some miracle, one has to wonder if their quality would hold up given the absence of key writers and developers. After all, games are as good as their developers, and Half-Life, Portal, or Left 4 Dead without the big three might as well be the equivalent of Metal Gear without Kojima. Regardless, I'd much rather see Valve at least make the attempt of creating renowned games again rather than see them waste away with Steam and middling game projects as they've been doing these past few years. You know, one thought I've had is that maybe Epic Game Store will finally reignite some kind of fire within Valve. Steam is facing true competition for the first time, and we have already seen how much headway Epic has made with their new platform, having secured noteworthy indie titles and major AAA releases like The Division 2. Perhaps Valve will come to the conclusion that in order to stay competitive, they'll have to secure exclusives of their own. And what better way to do that than by reviving powerhouse franchises sitting in their vault that have been collecting dust for far too long. I don't know, just a thought, but at the very least I can definitely say that Artifact is looking like a major flop for the once renowned company. And that's just sort of what happens when you don't meet your fans and community halfway, and when you let your obsession with monetization get in the way of launching a product with its integrity intact. These are one man's perspective on the situation anyway. I'd love to hear what your take is on Artifact's dying player base in the comments below. With that, I would like to end this news update. Thank you for tuning in. To be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Yong Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Yong out.